Have you ever felt tremendously embarrassed? I mean, really, really embarrassed to the point where you just want to descend into a manhole, pull the lid over your head, and never surface again? Anybody?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not hoity-toity. And so I'm happy to share an experience when I was that embarrassed many years ago, but it wasn't for myself. It was for someone else. And it happened when I was in kindergarten. I remember the day when our teacher, Mrs. Schmidt, said, okay, boys and girls, I have to go to the office for about 10 minutes. I want you to stay in your seats, do your work, do not talk. That was back in the day when teachers were, I believe, legally allowed to leave the room for a few minutes. I don't think they can now. We all complied. We sat in our U-shaped formation desk, doing our matching, our coloring, our one-to-one correspondence. About 3 minutes later, a little boy spoke up. His name was Scott McMahon. I remember him well. He was pale with a crew cut, a little spattering of freckles across his little pug nose. I still have my classroom kindergarten picture. And he always wore cowboy boots to school every single day. Scott was the most gregarious person in the entire room. Nothing daunted him, a total extrovert, very likable kid. All of a sudden, he shot his hand up and said, hey, everybody, anybody who wants to marry me when they grow up, raise their hand. Raise your hand if you want to marry me. And no one raised their hand. Again, Scott raised his hand. Raise your hand if you want to marry when you grow up. Still no takers. By the time Scott did this again, I was starting to feel embarrassed for him. I kept thinking, what if no one raises their hand? What if no one wants to marry Scott? I know I can't, but I'll feel embarrassed for him. Again, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth time, he issued his altar call. No takers. It was like a Seinfeld comedy where someone is making a total scene in a restaurant and they hire these really, really good background actors who are not flinching, not blinking. They're just going about their business. No one was looking up, I believe, except me, observing the entire thing. At one point, he kept saying, raise your hand if you want to marry me, looking around the room. And I thought, oh no, he might start picking out individuals. He might look at me. I know I can't marry him. So I kept burying my head in my work, doing my matching, my one-to-one correspondence. Please don't call on me. Finally, something happened. Someone spoke up. Carol Harmon, my neighbor down the street. She was every bit Scott's match in terms of being extroverted, outgoing, etc. She had dark brown eyes and this mass of really blonde hair, made for a wonderful, innovative combination. She happened to look up right at the second that I looked up. She looked around the room, circumventing the situation. She squinted her eyes and she said, I'll marry you, Scott. I'll do it. I'll marry when you grow up. Almost as if to say, well, there are no takers, but I'm full of a sense of God, family, and country. I'll do it. I'll do it. And Scott said, oh, great, Carol, great. You're going to marry me. Just then, Mrs. Schmidt walked into the room looking very old. Of course, she probably wasn't a day over 50, very weathered, very worn, a little grouchy, and very tired. In fact, she probably wanted to be retired, and said, what's going on? What's going on? And Scott said, oh, Mrs. Schmidt, I just raised my hand to see if anyone wanted to marry me, and Carol's going to marry me when she grows up. At that point, everything became just a total blank, and I don't remember anymore. But I wanted to give you an insight into an overly conscientious 5-year-old's mind in kindergarten. Have a great day, fellow Toastmasters.